Hi everybody, my name is Tyler Verhoff, and I will be presenting the case study entitled Get This Child Out of My Room for my EDL 853 Special Education class, Model 8. The first category that we are going to be looking at today is identifying the problem and coming to an analysis of the situation at hand. So we paint the picture as a rural school district, seems to be strapped financially, and there are multiple shared resources throughout the school district. There are assistant superintendents who are taking on roles with teaching. There are school counselors at hand. A resource room is available, and multiple things throughout the district we can go back to. The situation at hand is a third grade classroom is kind of the setting of the situation and the problem at hand. Carl is the student we are looking at, and he is having some pretty severe behavioral outbursts in the classroom, and he does have an IEP for those behavioral problems. The teacher in this classroom, Mrs. Taylor, is a veteran teacher who is respected in the school and has 10 years of teaching experience, and that is a good thing for the new administrator to kind of take in and can kind of rely on that experience. But it kind of doesn't happen in this case study, but we'll get to that later. Carl recently has been put on a behavioral reward program to kind of condition those behaviors and outbursts that he's having. Unfortunately, Mrs. Taylor has had some minor success with this. And the big problem, the real emotion that has come out, Carl has acted out physically in class and has yelled at other students to stop staring at him, and has thrown a pencil at Mrs. Taylor and made threatening comments. The situation also brings down Carl's parents are recently divorced, and throughout the study we read that they can be dysfunctional together, and that could be one of the root problems that Carl is going under. In the study, an IEP meeting was quickly planned to get Carl help, but with his development and his conditions, they aren't really appropriate to qualify for some of the services that the teachers think that he needs. So things that I need to know before managing this situation. I need to know what seems to be triggering Carl's aggressive behavior in the classroom. I need to get straight down to that. Has Carl's behavior ever escalated like this at home or in any other situations throughout the school? I would talk to special teachers who would see him in a different environment. I would talk to siblings if he had them to see maybe if things have been happening that are, coming from out of the blue, triggering these behavioral issues that Carl is having. Is he being treated differently because of the divorce? Are his parents being nicer to him because of the hard time that they're going through? Are his peers, do they know these things are going on? Are they bullying him? Are teachers being extra nice? Are they being careful in the words that they're using? How are these people in his life, how is these environments affecting him? That's what I need to know I would also use as many resources as possible to finding the answers to what I need to know, right? So he's in 3rd grade. I would go back to his kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grades teachers, and ask them if they had any experiences with Carl, what worked with Carl, what didn't work with Carl. How closely is this IEP being followed by Mrs. Taylor as well? And I need to know what Carl responds well to, and I can get that from those teachers previously. And I need to know what Carl's feelings are, and I think that's where I'm going to start through this dissection. I need to go and I need to talk to Carl. Identifying the problem at hand. Through analysis, I discovered that Carl's aggressive behavior has random outbursts in class. The tragic event of, parents getting divorced, in my opinion, is probably the root of the problem, but there's probably a lot more going on. But I'm just going to centralize that focus. In my opinion, this outburst does not seem to be attention-seeking. A lot of people would outburst because they need attention. They want someone to look at them. They want to express something. Kids just need that sometimes, but Carl does not want others to look at him, so I know he's not doing this out of attention. This is something he can't help. It's an emotional issue, and Carl needs to be able to cope with his anger. I feel like this is a very emotionally angered situation. Mrs. Taylor, I think, needs to do her part. I think she needs to be a little understanding and reasonable and more patient about the situation. I am kind of questioning her classroom management skills as a administrator. It seems she may be hard to work with and communicate and build a relationship with, but as an administrator, you need to manage all types of personalities, So I need to know what her relationship is with Carl. How does she treat him? And I'm sure it's good, but I do need to see that. And also, through identifying this problem, I'm going to use my resources, and I'm going to use my resources as my last resort, because this is something that I think that personally, with my background, I can take care of. Okay, we're going to segue into category 2, proposed plan of actions with strategies for implementation. Okay, so this is my course of action. I'm going to start by talking to Carl first. Okay, so that's the emotional communication. In the case study, there was no reference to any type of communication with Carl. The first thing you need to do as an administrator, you need to take the lead, and you need to show students that you are human. You need to go down to their level and try to understand them. And in turn, they'll respect you. So I want to go to Carl. I want to talk to him personally. I want to talk to him directly. And I want to ask him, what exactly happened? What made him upset? What made him do the actions that he had? I would explain to him, I'm not mad at him. I just need to know what exactly happened. Okay? I would use strategies such as, hey, draw how you feel. What does he respond well with? Draw what you feel. Tell me how you feel. Pick a face of how you feel. From 1 to 10, what is your anger like? Things like that, so we can kind of pinpoint what's going wrong. If that doesn't work, I'm going to remove Carl from the classroom. I'm gonna go take a walk. I'm gonna go walk down the hall with him. Maybe going outside if I have to, get some fresh air. And from experience, I know that taking a child out of a learning environment that may be hostile can release some of those tensions and feelings and angers, And as myself, I have been asked by teachers, being a physical education teacher, to take students into the gym and relieve stress with them. Whether that's by, hitting a punching bag, doing laps around, kicking a ball, releasing frustrations out on soft things that aren't going to hurt anybody. And really, it's teaching them to cope with the aggression and anger, and if that system works, if that strategy works, I'm going to implement a reward system with physical activity for Carl. Maybe he could be a helper of the physical education teacher. Like maybe if he likes like an extra resource, recess. Maybe he can go outside and play with a staff member if he does well for a certain period of time. There's just several positive reinforcements that we can use to help Carl with the situation. And it all starts with emotional communication. Next, we're going to move on to a strategy of regular observation and documentation. So I would observe Carl's behavior daily. Sometimes I'd start my day, hey Carl, make sure he got off the bus and got into his room. Great. And make sure he's on that routine daily. And I would do random pop-ins and always take notes and kind of see what's going on in that classroom. As a professional, I am questioning Mrs. Taylor's classroom management skills. I don't think she is doing some of the appropriate things that she needs to be doing with this class. This situation is not at all out of the ordinary. I think she can do a little better at being positive about the situation, but I'm not going to tell her that. These are just kind of my feelings. But what is reinforcing Carl's behavior too? That has to be asked in here, and everything needs to be documented, from social behavior, to teacher interaction. What is he doing in these classrooms? That in constant documentation of these situations, you're going to see him in all facets of his day. So you'll be able to pinpoint the trigger that Carl's receiving through that constant documentation and regular observation. And lastly, I'm going to talk about resources. There's multiple resources, but most of them I think we can use for last resorts in this situation. So Mrs. Taylor, I think, needs to be given breaks. This is a situation that she's obviously not used to, and we want to keep her on staff because of her great experience. But I know what it's like to be in a room with a student like that, and sometimes we'd have a staff rotate and give her a break. If none of the additional strategies that I mentioned worked, I would put together a behavior team, a behavioral committee to kind of collaborate on the types of strategies that we could use to help Carl. Taking him to the resource room. If we have a occupational therapist on staff, if we could try to get him with her to go over some coping techniques of his behavior. Unfortunately, we do not have an occupational therapist, so I am going to rely on the counselor for that. Okay, the counselor is a counselor's role to kind of ask the questions and have them communicate. Bring them to the resource room to deal with these angers and talk through them and give positive remarks over this, and just really giving him care. I would have at least weekly meetings with the school counselor for these problems.